Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You are listening to the NTC pod. Aaron Washington, Aaron Pearlstein, Aaron and Aaron on this pod once again. Glad to be back with you guys. We're having some fun right now, guys. I mean, we're into the second fan returns as of just the other day for All Star. So this is going to be an All Star centric podcast. We're going to go through the best of All Stars, the worst of All Stars, the good, bad, and the ugly, everything in between. So it should be a fun pod. Aaron, thanks for joining me again, man. Always glad to have you on. Hope you've been enjoying the season. Hope you've been enjoying the All-Star lead up so far for the most part. Aside from some controversy we'll get into here in a little bit, but glad to have you back, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy I'm here.
Good stuff, man. Real quick before we get started, guys, Bet99 Sportsbook is the official betting partner of NTC. So be sure to check out their website, bet99.com, if you're looking for to get involved in some betting activities. So if you're looking at All-Star, if you're looking at the rest of the season, some big performances have been dropped. If you want to see if that's going to keep going or you want to pick against it, I'm sure they have all kinds of different criteria for how they set up these bets. I think that was a great time as we wind down the first half of the season, get started on the second half. I mean, it's a fun time to be a fan. It's a fun time to be involved in all the festivities. So be sure to give them a look. And I'm sure you will have tons of fun over there if betting is more of your speed and you're into that kind of thing. With all that being said, Aaron, this is the time to get into some All-Star talk, man. All-Star weekend is always a great time in the NBA. It's a great time for the players to kind of rest a little bit, decompress. Of course, some of them will be playing in the All-Star game, participating in All-Star weekend. But overall, it's just kind of like a casual, have some fun, let loose type of vibe during the season. These players need it. They play a whole lot of games. They get worn down. It's a great time for them to relax, enjoy the festivities. It's a great time for us as fans to decompress a little bit, take a snapshot of where the league is at the All-Star break. It's like the unofficial halfway point. We know it's more of like a 60% mark for the season, past halfway. But nonetheless, it's a great time for us to reflect and also look forward to what's coming next in the league. So first off, we want to discuss who will most likely be All-Star starters. Now, this discussion is always difficult to it's difficult to nail down players sometimes because we have injuries. We have guys that miss plenty of games. There'll be some names that we'll get to in a minute that probably are deserving to start, but injuries happen. They miss a lot of games. It might knock them out of consideration. Other factors may come into play when it comes to what makes these guys eligible to be starters and things like that. But to start with you, Aaron, when it comes to All-Star starters, I mean, we can go East or West, whatever you're feeling. I guess maybe just East to get the ball rolling. This, I think, was a little bit more – I mean, it depends on position because there are some positions here. There's some players it's like, all right, that was the easy pick. There's no controversy whatsoever. And then I think there's probably one or two spots when it comes to starters in the East I think is a little bit more debatable. But in your opinion, who are the 5 players in the Eastern Conference that you believe are worthy of starting in Utah here in just a few weeks?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm very ecstatic about it being All-Star weekend very soon. I think I'll talk about this later, but I think it's blasphemy that I have to pick, 3 forwards and 2 guards when it's such a positionless league. But
yeah, we'll get into that.
With those constraints, right now, I have, a lineup of obviously I'm going to have Kevin Durant. I'm obviously going to have Joel Embiid. I'm obviously going to have Giannis. And for some reason, I can't pick Jason Tatum now, but we'll talk about that later. And then from there, the guards are definitely tough. As of right now, I have Donovan Mitchell in the lock in one of them. I think, his last few weeks have been pretty insurmountable, enough evidence to show that he clearly deserves it. Just constant, scoring 72 points, like, that's enough to get you somewhere. So I think, he's someone that deserves it clearly. He's day in and day out, constantly being a force. And, I think the next guard I'm definitely having a lot of trouble with. I'm feeling I think, I'm feeling closer to a DeMar DeRozan. I think he's been very valuable and very, playing at an all-star level again this year. But, as of how the Bulls have looked recently, it's definitely been tough. I voted the first day. So, uh,
Gotcha.
but, you know, someone could make a case for James Harden easily. I think he's flown on the radar now somehow.
He
Um,
has. He has.
yeah, and he's been putting up some quality numbers and
Definitely.
some numbers that are easily an all-star starter any other year when there's just not this just echelon of talent. Uh, but I think I think I'm gonna switch it to James Harden. I think I'm gonna have James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, and then have Embiid, Giannis, and KD with I'm sorry, Jason. You are an all-star starter. Like I don't know how else to say it. You are. So
That's why I had mentioned that there were probably two positions that made it dicey. The guard, I feel like the guard talent in the East has been a lot. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful with this, but it's a little bit less impressive than the West guard talent.
mhm.
The West guards, I mean, it was just brutal trying to go through that and pick
Yeah,
two players. But in the East, I mean, it was also difficult, but it wasn't as clear cut, I feel, as the Western Conference was. And then,
right.
as you mentioned, like there is a logjam at the forward position. At least it's not pigeonholed to center anymore. That was extremely annoying, when we had to do that. So it's a little bit more lenient now with three forwards. But yeah, like maybe they would be better served by just going straight up five best players, regardless of position. And again, that's something that we can cover here in a little bit. But my list is slightly different from yours. I have
hmm
three out of the five of the same players. Donovan Mitchell, if anybody brings up a list that doesn't have Donovan Mitchell on it, they need to be drug tested. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just that simple.
he's no, he's yeah.
He's got to be in the five. I have notifications on my phone from Bleacher Report for the Cavaliers, and it'll say it's halftime of the game, and then here are the top two performers from, one from each team. It's almost always Donovan Mitchell. And guess how many points he has at halftime? 15, 18, 20, 17, 22 at halftime. Every single
Yep.
game. Like this dude is just pouring in the points. His efficiency is at all-time high. His confidence is at all-time high. He's trying on defense. He's almost averaging 30 points a game, which I know in today's NBA, specifically this season, means a little bit less than it did 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But still, like 29.2 points a game is nothing to sneeze at. Add in the almost 5 assists a game, 4 rebounds a game, and Donovan Mitchell has been sensational to say the least. So I mean that's a lock. You can't debate that. If a guy scores 70 points in a season, I think that's an automatic bid right there. It's like put him in the All-Star starting lineup and don't even think twice about it.
There you go.
It's just
I think
incredible.
that's a good rule.
Yeah, that should be a good one to follow. I mean, if you're one of the top 10, if you have one of the top 10 scoring games in NBA history, okay, I will give it to you. We'll
Right,
give it to you.
right.
That's pretty impressive.
Uh-huh.
Second guard spots where I differed a little bit. DeRozan has a great case. 100% agree. Harden has a great case. And like you said, Harden's gone under the radar because the Sixers have been an up and down team. They're currently the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. 21 points a game, 11 assists. That's very impressive. 6.5 rebounds. And I believe that Harden would lead the league in assists if he were eligible for the league.
hmm
I don't think he's played enough games, but I think the
Right.
11 assists would lead the league. So I mean, he's been crazy impressive, and it's wild to think that he went from being the player that we all talked about it all the time to now he's kind of in the shadow of Embiid a little bit. He's in the shadow of some of the other guards like Donovan Mitchell, who we talk about all the time, and the Jaws and the Steph Currys and all these guys. But yeah, I mean, he's had a sensational season, and he wasn't my starter. He wasn't a starter for me, but I mean, nonetheless, I mean, he's been absolutely incredible, and he's absolutely deserving of being an All-Star this year. But my second guard spot went to Trae Young, and
Okay.
yes, there's been turmoil in Atlanta. There's been a lot of drama. The team has underperformed. I understand that, but for me, it's the win loss total and all that stuff doesn't matter as much when it comes to the All Star game. For me, it's purely who has been the best, who have been the best players overall. Yes, his efficiency is down. That's definitely something that's a knock against him, but he's still about 10 assists a game, still at about 27 points a game. filling up the stat sheet. And yeah, the box score numbers aren't everything, but I mean, it's definitely a tough sell here when you're trying to find the second guard. So I think there's a lot of right answers. I don't think that it's as cut and dry as the Donovan Mitchell pick.
Yeah.
So that one's a little bit tougher to determine. But yeah, 27-10, I mean, is still very impressive. And hopefully the Hawks can turn it around here and he gets his efficiency up. But through 42, 43 games, I think he's been very good. Just the team overall has suffered.
Yep.
There's some things we're dealing with. Giannis on board with that. Katie on board with that. Not much else needs to be said. I have Tatum over Embiid.
I get it. I mean, they're both starters.
Like, where do you go with that?
Right.
It's I mean, for me, it really just came down to one simple thing, one simple number. And this is going to change, obviously, because Katie is now out for several weeks. But at the time, it was games played.
Mm-hmm.
And those three have played more than Embiid, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's starting to change a little bit because Katie's going to miss several weeks. And I mean, he might miss the All-Star game itself. So it might have to have an injury replacement. In that case, Embiid is the obvious answer. But yeah, those are my picks. And it's tough. It's tough. 3 forwards. There's 4 deserving forwards and 1 super deserving guard, and then like 3 more that you can just kind of debate about. So it's kind of.
I promise Tatum could play the second guard. If they want to allow it, he could do it.
Yeah, 100%. You want to throw him in for Trae Young? I mean, I'd be all for that. I'd make it so much easier.
Right. Exactly.
I wish we could do that. So they have Tatum eligible at guard and Jaylen Brown eligible at or Jason Tatum at forward, Jaylen Brown at guard. So that's how they do that. DeMar DeRozan at guard too. It's just kind of weird how they separate.
And if you watch how the All-Star game is played, the idea that you need positions is crazy. So I don't understand the reasoning for that, but whatever.
Yeah. It's weird, man. It's weird how they do that. I think it's a little bit outdated in today's game. So that's the East. The East is definitely interesting. The West is also interesting. Now let's get some names out of the way that are locks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy named Luka Doncic who had.
I heard he's having a good season.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I mean, he's he had a 60-point triple-double the other day. So, I mean, that's another milestone. Like, if you hit that stat line, that's another automatic win for you. You're in.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked. Let's not even talk about it anymore. Nikola Jokic. What else can we say? He is one of the most dominating talents in the league. One of the best passers in league history, regardless of position. I mean, we can just go on and on about that guy. LeBron James coming up to the all-time scoring record.
Unbelievable.
I mean, dominating at age 38. I think that's a pretty solid case right there. From there, it's a little bit kind of like, okay, it's a little bit interesting. Mm-hmm. So do you have those 3 guys on your ballot if you're looking at starters so far?
I'm going to be honest. I don't have LeBron in my starting lineup right
Interesting.
now. I definitely, I get it. He's the greatest of all, one of the greatest of all time, if not number 2. Having a great season at the age of 38. Yep. But I'm just never a big fan of like awarding the big names. I think that there are guys that deserve a recognition for their play right now. So right now I have Luka, I have Jokic, obviously. The second guard spot, I have Shai. I think, first of all, longevity. He's played a good amount of games, 39 games this year. He's been he's one of the most valuable players if you were going valuability in the NBA. Yes. At the center position or another forward position, I have Sabonis. I think he's another guy that's just played out of his mind. Yeah, so valuable for the Kings, keeping them in the playoff spot. Putting up very close triple doubles like Jokic. And I think he definitely deserves the recognition. And then my fifth spot, it's more of purely just recognition. I would be totally fine with LeBron being a starter, which he will be. Is Laurie. I think just the way he's played this year. That's definitely my all prove the doubters team wrong in the West.
I like
Kind of
that.
just guys coming in and just balling and just putting the haters on notice, and all going to be rightfully paid, rightfully recognized. And so, that would be awesome if it came out that way, but obviously that's not how it works. Yeah.
So let's take a second to unpack all that. So we'll start with Shea. I went back and forth on this one. This was so tough for me. I was between Shea and Ja. I went Ja, but I mean, it's like this. It's just, oh man.
It was the 5 games in difference in plays that made it for me. Kind of like what you said in the East. That was kind of made it. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think Shea has an excellent case for starting. You look at the counting stats, 30, 5 and 5, essentially. A little bit off on the rebounds, but essentially 35 and 5. 91% from the free throw line. Like one of the best free throw shooters in the entire league. That's part of the reason why he's averaging 30 points a game. I just watched a YouTube video from Thinking Basketball. Ben Taylor does excellent videos over there. Yep. And he talked about Shea and how dominant he is. And a lot of it comes from his ability to attack the rim extremely frequently, be extremely efficient, and then hit all his free throws pretty much is why he's at 30 points a game. Like he takes full advantage of every opportunity he gets to score. Not the most devastating 3-point shooter, 35%, respectable, probably about league average. But for him, it's like that mid-range / at the rim. Like that's just what makes him a different breed. Uses his size extremely well. I mean, like I wish I could go so in depth in his more in depth with this game as Mantello did, but
I mean, he's just a bucket getter too.
He is. He is. He's gotten so much better every season. I think he's in the running for most improved player. Just done sensational things this season. And I mean, if he's a starter, I would love that. I mean, I'm a huge Shea fan. I have a jersey of his from a couple of years ago. I'm a huge supporter of Shea. I love what he does. And I love how he dominates the game in more of a subtle way. He's not a Jokic. He's not an Embiid. He's not Giannis. He doesn't have like the body of a god or something like that, like these other guys. Like, of course, he's tall. He's 6'6". He's got some size. But for him, it's like, I'm not going to dunk on guys. I'm not just going to bully guys, get to the rim. I'm going to be shifty. I'm going to be crafty. I'm going to use my footwork to my advantage, up and unders, spin moves, Euro steps, things like that. That's the appeal of Shea for me. So I love what he's doing. He's a tank killer. They had to shut him down the last 2 seasons. He's too good to tank with. The only way you're going to get a top 5 pick is if Shea doesn't play the last 15 games. That's the only way. So that's a testament to his greatness. Oh man. So who's next here? So you have Sabonis as a starter. I like that too. Just last night, he dominated. I mean, played Houston. I have him my fantasy team, so I'm well aware of how dominant he's been. A 19, 15, 16 triple-double with 2 steals and 2 blocks.
Yep.
Sensational.
And I mean, going back to if LeBron's starting, outside of that, you got Anthony Davis, you got Zion Williamson, who both have missed a lot of time.
They have.
The only consistent guy right there that's doing it night in and night out. That's valuable for their team. That's pushed their team into the playoffs. It's Sabonis. So I feel like it's a pretty close to a favorite. So
I like that pick specifically if Zion is going to miss a lot more time. Initially, I'd put him in there, but I mean, if he's going to miss a ton of time, I'm totally fine with putting Sabonis in his spot. So he's been that good for the Kings. It's the reason why the Kings have had their best season in 16 years. I mean, it's really incredible to see, and I'm happy for him. Really happy for him. He's come a long way since his Thunder days, where he was. They tried to pigeonhole him as like a stretch big for some reason.
Yeah.
As a 4, and that it was just not his game. And he got to Indiana, put him at the 5, let him feast to the high post, and rest is history. So
and I mean, everyone could talk about what Halliburton's doing, but no one wants to look at the other side. It was a win-win.
It was a win-win. Like both teams are getting exactly what they wanted. Pacers get a franchise player.
I mean, Halliburton was on Woj's podcast, and he just said it's perfect that De'Aaron Fox and I are playing together again. Like it's the different play styles, and it was as much of a win-win you can get in a trade.
100%. There's no debating that whatsoever. So I mean, it's another tough toss up between LeBron and just talking about Sabonis's play so far. I think either of those are good picks for starters. I mean, it's LeBron James. I can't see him not starting.
Right. No, he will.
Maybe because of just the name itself, the cachet.
He's also leading in votes. So.
Yeah, that too. That'll probably propel him up there. But I mean, Sabonis is my next guy, pretty much. Yeah. After those guys, Sabonis is there. He's been that good, and it's really a toss up between those guys. Zion has been great, but as you said, he's missed a lot of games. It's just unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for Davis. It's unfortunate for Booker. All three of those guys have cases to start, especially Davis. I think Davis probably might even be a shoo-in over Sabonis and LeBron if he didn't get hurt. Like, he was that good.
Yeah, and then, like, I had him in, but obviously, LeBron's going to start over him. But Lauri's having an unbelievable year.
Oh,
coming from a Bulls fan, it's tough to watch. But but it's also remarkable to see.
For sure,
he's another tank killer, I guess.
He is. No,
but and it's night in, night out. It's not like just little flukes here and there, like the 49 points game and then 30, and then I mean, he's just bringing it each game, and each game it looks like he's getting better and better. So, he's definitely going to be an all-star. I would love if he was a starter, but only 5 guys. So, but gonna get a vote from me.
Oh yeah, and he gets a vote from me too. Not as a starter, but I mean he's right in the discussion. Got to be in the discussion. And for him, I mean, I don't think we see this leap from him if he's in Cleveland or Chicago. It's easy to say we should have kept him because he's exploding, but we got to think about it. It's like, would he be doing this in that system with those other players? I'm not sure if he would take that leap. So, I mean, you know this, Aaron. I mean, some players just need to change the scenery.
Absolutely.
It just comes time for them to move on from their team, their current team, go somewhere new. You get a new coach, a new system, new teammates. That has a lot to do with how guys play. I think it affects rookies and young players the most. But even when you get to the midpoint of your career, like you reach a point to where maybe you've maxed out your potential in one place, because he's not being used the same way in Utah as he was in Cleveland, Chicago, especially Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago kind of ruined him in a way.
He was a spot-up shooter in Chicago.
Exactly. So, he was a spot-up shooter. He would, pick and pop. It's like, oh, he's a great shooter at his position, which he is. But in Utah, he's getting a chance to handle the ball a little bit more. He's getting a chance to initiate the offense, to take advantage of his size. The dude's almost 7 feet tall. Like, we forget that sometimes. So you look at his rebounding numbers. I mean, they're solid as well. I mean, he gets on the boards. He's you see 10 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 11 rebounds, just all over the place. So, I mean, clearly he's doing something right when it comes to generating rebounds, and 8.6 on the season so far. Not a huge assist guy. He's not going to get guys involved like that, but he's super efficient and he gets a lot of boards. He does what needs to be done on offense. So 100%. I love that pick for sure. So I think we have covered the starters. So now it's time to get into the real meat and potatoes of this thing, which is the all-star reserves. And this is going to be another tough discussion here for some guys that we want to make the cut and might not. We'll get to honorable mentions here in a minute, but just straight up reserves that we believe most likely to make it. So guys that we would be shocked if they don't make the game. We can start in the East once again. So I'll throw out a couple of names here just to get us started. Bam Adebayo and let's say Julius Randle, the 2 names to throw out there. If either of those guys weren't picked, I think there's something wrong. Just looking at the seasons they have, starting with Bam. I was talking with a coworker about him a little bit earlier and how he's expanded his game. The mid-range specifically has been on fire this season.
Yeah.
So that was one of his weak points, especially a couple of playoffs ago where they played the Bucks in the first round, and he was being guarded by Brook Lopez. And Brook Lopez did one of these numbers. He was just like this. He was just like, I dare you to beat me with the jump shot. And Bam didn't have it. He didn't have the confidence. He didn't go to his jump shot. So he was shut down the entire series. Now you can't play him like that. He's got the jump ball point. He's a lot more aggressive. He's looking for a shot. He's averaging 20 and 10 just about. So it's a lot harder to guard him in that way. So, yeah, it's coming from a Heat homer, but regardless of my affiliation, I think his two-way play, and that's the other thing. He guards all five
Mhm.
positions. He can
Yeah.
switch onto 99% of players in the NBA, pretty much, and you can live with it. So I
Yep.
think that's what gives him the edge over a lot of other players. How do you feel about Bam Adebayo's candidacy so far?
I mean, I love it. I think, I feel like the front court depth after those top four guys are pretty shallow in terms of the East, and I think Bam is also deserving of an All Star bid. I think without Bam in Miami, things would look very very different. Even though they're definitely underperforming, I think without Bam would be very different.
Mhm.
I think he's a top 10 center in the league for me. And I think you hit it on the head. I think he's improved in terms of you know being able to differentiate his bag defensively. He's been able to, and I think he's moving a lot better. And I totally agree. I think uh, if he wasn't an All Star, it would definitely concern me. I think he definitely deserves that recognition. A few more that I feel like definitely deserve that recognition, no doubt. Um, Gonna go with Pascal. I think he's had an unbelievable year,
Spicy
career
D.
year. Yeah, I mean, absolutely career year. We didn't talk about him as a starter, but Jalen Brown. I think both
Yep.
Tatum and Brown are all stars.
Yep.
What they've been able to do together, and have the best record in the NBA. It's awesome. And then for one, would absolutely love to see the first rookie since 2010, Blake Griffin. I would love to see Paolo get some recognition
Mm.
and get on that team. I think he deserves it. I think he's come into the league and just totally uh, acted like he's belonged. And I don't think anyone who actually watches enough basketball could say he doesn't and doesn't deserve to be in this conversation. And I think he deserves that recognition.
That's an interesting pick. I hadn't really considered Paolo for the game, but I think he has a case. I would say it's a long shot
Mm-hmm.
because he's not. I don't know. It's always tough to pick a rookie because you have so many other established guys that are having great seasons. But with that being said, I mean he's definitely one of the best rookies we've seen in a while here. Going through his numbers, and he's not going to light it up from downtown. He still needs to work on that jump shot. But when you look at what he's doing, at other parts of the floor, he generates so many free throws for his team.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part of his game that I think is propels the Magic to a lot of wins that they otherwise wouldn't get. He has a 34% rim frequency, so he's a 60 percentile of the league when it comes to rim attempts.
Mm-hmm.
93% percentile in frequency from the long mid range, 89% from mid in general. So you can see like where his shot profile shifts to. It's the
Right.
rim, it's the mid range, a lot of mid range shots. So there's a lot more that I think Paolo can kind of, and this is how good he is with 20 points a game as a rookie. There's so much more he can do once his shot profile is more efficient. He shifts some of those mid rangers to threes in the rim shots, and then gets his free throw percentage up and is efficient from there. Man, I think the sky's the limit for him. So I believe he will make multiple All-Star games in his career. Not so sure this is the first one for him, but regardless, he's been fantastic. I think he's a runaway winner of Rookie of the Year. There's no
Yeah.
contest in that regard. And I mean, it's fun to watch him play. Just kind of bully people. Has more of a throwback game. We don't
Yeah.
see a lot of players that come in and they dominate at the rim, generating free throws and shooting a lot of mid-range shots. That's a dying art. So in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
regard, I think he's fun to watch play for sure.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one, man. How about this one? I touched on Randall a little bit here. I think his numbers have been amazing. I think he might even be better than he was a couple of years ago when he won Most Improved Player. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, he deserves it for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's 24 and 10, 3.8 assists. I'm going to check out his efficiency here real quick to see how he's doing. But it's crazy because New York has two players that are deserving. I would say it's Randall and Brunson. I'm not so sure about Brunson. I think he's kind of on the bubble, but I
Yeah,
do think he is deserving, and I think he's in my honorable mentions because he
yeah,
has had a great season. But I mean, that's a great sign for New York that they have two guys that are deserving of All-Star bids.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think there's going to be a lot of honorable mention, like guys that are going to be upset, going to be snubs. That it's just it's what happens with the talent.
Yep.
Going to have to be reformed at some point. But talking about snubs, I'm not like it's not a lock. Halliburton, like we were saying, I'm not sure if he'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the injury now, he probably
Yeah,
won't even be able to
tough,
play. So,
tough timing.
but to say he doesn't deserve it is definitely wrong. I think the
I
way he's come out
I
and
agree.
played, it's unbelievable. So,
I agree. Uh, Wally Zerviak is a big reason why he exploded. I
absolutely,
believe he lit the fire. Don't poke the bear, guys. I mean,
yeah,
unless you just want a guy to go off, don't try him, man. It won't end well for you. Um, but yeah, Randall in that discussion for sure. Looking up his efficiency numbers, not quite as accurate from three as he was that season, 34% as opposed to 41 2 years ago. But the big jump for him has been the mid range. He was 43 in that season. Now he's at 44. So he's in the top 25% of mid range jump shooters in the league currently, which is very cool to see. Uh, at the rim, he's much better than he was 2 years ago. He was only at about 60% 2 years ago, bottom 20% of the league. Now he's about the average, 66% at the rim. So he's made some strides for sure. He's hitting more of those easy shots at the rim,
yep,
and then more of those, specifically the short mid range, is where Randall's gotten a lot better. So I like his shot selection more than in years past, making some great decisions, getting on the boards, 10 boards a game, which is very impressive. And then, I mean, uh, Siakam, you touched on him a little bit as well. Those two guys are just they don't just they can kill you in so many different ways. It's not just the scoring that kind of puts them over the top. So both of those guys have a great case, and once you get past the elites up there with the Tatum and KD, I mean those guys are right there,
yep.
sensational seasons for the respective teams.
I agree. I agree.
Let's see, Western Conference. Western Conference. This is a good one as well. Let me throw out one name here and see what you think. De'Aaron Fox
hmm
for the
I think he's.
Western Conference
I
reserve.
think he's
How do
just.
you feel about
I think he's an all-star. Absolutely.
it? I like it. I like it.
Absolutely.
I was going back and forth because this list, it's difficult in the West because there's so many players that are deserving on paper,
Right.
but like a lot of guys are going to miss because they're hurt.
Yeah.
Uh, like Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson. Like, those are
Yep.
three extremely good players. So now I had to kind of go through and I'm like, okay, if those guys aren't in it or they have to be replaced, who are the next names up?
Yep.
So I put in Fox. I put in Paul George. I put in Damian Lillard as guys that maybe initially I wouldn't have. But if we need to find replacements, I think those are three of the next names you'll see come up. How do you feel about those guys getting in?
Good. I think one that definitely needs more recognition. I think is CJ McCollum. I think he deserves a spot.
He's on my honorable
Uh,
mentions list. He's on my
yeah,
honorable mentions list. But
I
yeah,
think he absolutely deserves a spot. I think someone out of New Orleans needs to make it.
yeah,
They've had a great start. Obviously Zion's their guy, but hurt. But CJ's played a pivotal role in keeping them afloat since Zion's gotten hurt.
he has.
Even before Zion started playing with Zion, he's had a great, efficient, successful first start to the season. So I
Mhm.
think he definitely deserves a reserve spot. That was definitely the name I wanted to touch on for sure. Um, and then outside of that, I think Jerami Grant deserves a spot. I think
Mm.
he's played really well. I could see both Portland guys or a lot of Portland guys getting snubbed. I think they've definitely underperformed, but
Mhm.
Jerami Grant definitely deserves it. Uh,
That's
yeah,
a good one too. That's a good one too. Uh, CJ McCollum. I have him in my honorable mentions. I'm not sure if he's going to make it, but I 100% agree. He's deserving of it. Numbers maintain or he's maintaining solid numbers so far. 35 minutes a game. let's not overlook that. I mean, he's 31. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's starting to get there in age. 35 minutes a game. He's assuming a humongous role for this team. So just for reference, last year, he spent half the year in Portland. He had 36 games in Portland, 26 in New Orleans. He played 1,261 minutes in Portland and 878 with the Pelicans. This season, he's at 1,334 minutes. That's already more minutes than he played total in Portland last season. So, and he's averaging about the same amount of minutes as he did in Portland, which is significant. Probably one of his top 3 or 4 seasons in terms of minutes per game. So CJ is doing a lot for this team. He's playing a lot of minutes. His usage rate is 28%, top 10 of the league at his position. So definitely doing a lot, and a high assist rate too. I mean, 24.9 assist percentage. He gets guys involved. He leads the show. He's reliable. Doesn't turn the ball over a whole ton. So I think just in terms of what he means to the Pelicans in the absence of a lot of their players, Herb Jones out, Trey Murphy's missed a lot of time, Zion and Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram, I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, he's missed 4 weeks now. I can't even remember, but he's been out for a long time. So in the absence of those guys, CJ's been invaluable. So 100% agreed that he's deserving of a spot. Is he going to make it? I think it's 50-50, but he's been sensational. I agree with that for sure.
Absolutely. You know, I think you hit it right on. You know, I think he's been an invaluable player, and I think he deserves that recognition. But we'll see. You know, I think there are a lot of names that, you know, show up often on All-Star rosters the last few years that may or may not deserve it, but are definitely going to be there. I mean, there definitely are ones that deserve it. Curry, obviously, but guys like Dame, guys like, you know, Devin Booker. You know, Booker didn't get hurt; he would obviously be a guy. But you know, I'm definitely curious to see what happens with that. You know, guys like that, guys like even Anthony Edwards. You know, I'm really interested to see what they do with that, how the, you know, voting goes, because you know, his team has underperformed. He's obviously upwards of 20 points per game, but you know, does he, you know, is he an all-star? Is he a guy that deserves that recognition? But you know, it'll be interesting to see.
I mean, I feel like it's as good a time as any to kind of transition into honorable mentions. Already discussed one, CJ McCollum might end up being an honorable mention if he doesn't make the game. You touched on another one of my honorable mentions, Anthony Edwards. His situation this year has been interesting to follow. For one, the past few games, he's gone in and out of the injury list. I don't know what's up with that. He's healthy, he's game time decision. He's healthy, he's game time. I don't know what's up with that. But he has had a pretty solid season. He was very up and down before Towns went out. Solid game, disappointing game, inefficient, high turnover. So he's kind of all over the place. But due to the way he plays and his age, I mean, you expect him to have some ups and downs. Third season, so he's still a young player. And he had a steep learning curve this season. When you're playing next to 2 high-profile big men, Gobert and Towns, there's going to be obviously a level of there's going to be a learning curve there for you. And I think for him, it's taken him some time to get accustomed to that. I think Towns went out before he really had a chance to completely get used to it. But in the absence of Towns, very solid so far. 23 points on the season, 4.3 assists, 6 rebounds. So very solid numbers. And I think what sets him apart from some of his peers as well is the fact that he can go out there, get you a couple steals, get you a couple blocks, do that at the 2 position. Very valuable. So another guy kind of like Paolo, who I think he's going to have multiple all-star bids. And at some point, he's going to take when Harden winds down and Lillard winds down and these guys in Curry, he's going to be in that next wave of star, maybe superstar guards in the league. So his time is coming, probably not this year, but it's definitely coming. Maybe next year if the team could be a little more stable. I think for him, it's just consistency. That's just the big thing he's missing right now. You agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think you hit it spot on. I think, and also I totally agree that there's many in his future. So
Yep. He's going to get there. He's going to get there. And I think his defensive ceiling automatically just kind of puts him in another tier above a lot of other guys. Like
yep,
DJ McCollum didn't have the kind of defensive prowess that I think Edwards can have if he's engaged on defense.
can yeah
Yeah,
can.
that's the key word. Can. So we'll see if he actually follows through on that. Yeah, but I like his outlook. I like his ceiling a lot. It's
Mhm.
be how does that team all kind of fit together? Where does D'Lo go? Does he get traded? Like that team's just so much flux right now. But if they can find some consistency, his game is going to take off. I firmly
Yeah.
believe.
hmm yeah. For honorable mentions, I talked about them. Some in the East that I had. I would love to see a guard and a forward get their first All-Star bid. So that would be Desmond Bain and
Okay,
then
yeah,
McCall Bridges. I
I
would
like
also
it.
love to see some recognition of McCall Bridges.
I like
Uh,
it.
he's as much as that's been like the amount of injuries in Phoenix, and the amount of
Oh man,
inconsistency in roster and rotation is
tough.
crazy. But there's been one focal point that stayed pretty, the same and consistent is McCall Bridges. I think he deserves the recognition for both the way he's played on both sides of the court, how consistent he is now. The leader in 3-point percentage from the corners is a little known fact of his. And then Desmond Bain, I think the Grizzlies need more recognition outside of John. Before he got hurt, Des was, they were being
Killing.
talked about as like the best backcourt in the league. So I think those are two guys that sneak in at the end that I would love to see. And I think those would definitely be my two honorable mentions.
Desmond Bain is a name I like a lot. He's appeared on the JJ Redick podcast a couple of times here, and he has really great things to say. And I watched a clip a little bit earlier. He was talking with JJ about the playoffs last year, or yeah, I guess it was last year now,
Yeah.
uh, against the Warriors, and when they went through the gauntlet, they were getting through Minnesota, barely got past Minnesota. We're playing the Warriors, and he had back problems. He had injury problems that really hampered his efficiency. And then this season, obviously, he had a very rough start. He missed several weeks. I think it was a toe injury. So he's had some tough breaks as far as injuries go. I think that's part of the reason why some of his numbers are down this year. Efficiency numbers, I'm just looking at him here. His effective field goal percentage is down about 4% from last year and the year before that. At the rim, he's shooting much worse than last year, at about 16% at the rim. So I think that's due in part to just the injuries he had to start the year. And that's going to cause you to kind of everybody needs time to ramp up once they come back from injury. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to jump back in and automatically be, flamethrower that you were before if you miss that much time. But
Mm-hmm.
still a very efficient shooter, very good defender. And I think for him, it's even more impressive because he's not the biggest guy out there. I mean, he's about 6'5", maybe 6'6" wing, very short wingspan. You wouldn't think it looking at him, but very good secondary ball handler, very good shooter, pretty versatile defender. One of the best contracts in the league. Like, we don't talk about this a lot, but he's on a $2.1 million contract.
It was the 30th
And
pick. Yeah.
yeah, because he was the 30th pick, exactly, in 2020. And then for next year, it is
It
3.8.
was it was the Celtics pick too. So
That's
imagine him
true. That's
getting
true.
drafted by the Celtics. That
Hey,
would be interesting.
yeah, for sure. Uh, yeah, he's just a intriguing guy. And this is one of those because I saw this question, I couldn't think of an answer. But somebody on Twitter asked, like, what is the best contract value in the league outside of maximums and minimums and things like that? And he might have excluded rookie contracts too, but
Mm-hmm.
either way, like that's just a bargain at $2 million for this guy. He's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
remind me of your other honorable mention.
McCall Bridges.
That's what it was. Yeah, Mikal Bridges. Another player who I love. Another player who I have his jersey. I wore it to the Denver Suns game on Christmas, and I was in enemy territory. But I'm just that big of a fan of his game because he doesn't dominate the ball. He's not the flashiest player, but he's so valuable because he's so versatile. Like,
Yeah.
hey, Mikal, I need you to go run a pick and roll. Okay. Mikal, I need you to spot up in the corner and hit a three off of a drive by Devin Booker. Okay, I can do that. Hey, Mikal, I need you to put you on KD and I need you to pick up some defensive possessions, guard KD, guard Tatum. Cool, I can do that. He's just the ultimate Swiss Army knife. So
Right.
that's, I think, one of the big reasons why he's so valuable and why might not ever make an all-star game. Just the numbers aren't flashy enough, I think. But he's always going to be deserving because he brings so much to that team. And he's just the ultimate winner, ultimate teammate. I think it would just be a joy to play with that guy. So love everything.
Agreed.
A couple more honorable mentions. I'll just throw out this one. Kyrie Irving for one last honorable mention. He's carrying the weight in the absence of KD. Definitely deserves some recognition.
No,
Still
he
one of
definitely.
the great magicians in our game, man. So I mean, can't forget about Kyrie out here.
Absolutely. I think I think the start of the season was definitely a whole roller coaster, but I think he definitely deserves it. Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, we'll get into the antics that he's up to, but yeah, he's just an amazing talent, man. I think I'm really gonna miss him when he's gone, just because he's so he like his finishing and ball handling is on a whole nother level from anybody else. So it's just it's amazing. One last segment here, man. Let's quickly go over this. I'll let you get on your soapbox here a little bit and discuss the limitations of the positions for all-star starters. So why don't you elaborate on that a little bit here?
I just don't think it's fair. I don't think the discussion around the All-Star weekend is fair because one, as much as maybe there's no, there are incentives connected to All-Star games. It bleeds into contract comparisons that play a huge pivotal role in how much these guys are paid. Mm-hmm. But you leave it to the fans that, as much as I'm the biggest Derrick Rose fan there is, he'll be getting votes in 2030. You got Austin Reeves, you got Kevon Looney above deserving guys. When are we going to actually get serious? Are we going to make it serious, or are we going to not make it not matter anymore? Because, I've seen people use the accolade like an all-star starter, but you're telling me I have to pick three between Giannis, Joel, Jason Tatum, and KD. So then, we're not actually being serious about an all-star starter because, how can that, play a big role in accolades, play a big role in contracts if I can't even pick the four best players? Right. So, I love the recognition of the fans to vote. And, I think we have to make it positionless. We have to make it not care as much, not matter as much. Something has to change because it's not fair to these guys that are becoming snubs, that are affecting their next contract, affecting how much money they're making, when in reality they are an all-star starter and they also are an all-star player. So I would love to see some kind of development in the impact of All-Star Weekend. If it's, make it more of really just a break. I know a lot of people won't like that because that will mess up the talent and the competition of the game. But then, then we have to fix the voting, fix the roster situation.
Oh yeah, we 100% do, man. I mean, I get where you're coming from with that. It's a very valid point. And yeah, I mean, if we're really going to be serious about this and we want to put the best players in there, we have to create an avenue for the best players to all be starters and not have one of them demoted to the bench just because they're a victim of positional limits. So yeah, I mean, especially in today's game, we talked about this a little bit before we went on, but in today's game, I mean, it's so free flowing. It's almost a positionless game now where you got centers bringing the ball up. You got guards setting screens. You got guards getting on the boards. I mean, Tyler Hero had a couple of games this season where he had 12 rebounds. I mean, everybody does everything now. So it just kind of reinforces your point that you're making about positions kind of being a thing of the past.
Right. I mean, and on top of that, I mean, the seventh guy, with the graphic pulled up, the seventh guard on the East, LaMelo Ball, he is an all-star talent, but he's played 19 games this year.
Yeah.
Are you really going to tell me he is the seventh guard deserving? And I'm all for giving the NBA fans, some foundation to have a say, but then make it make sense, because these affect the money they make, these affect the contracts they sign,
Right.
these affect the the accolades they have at the end of their career that affect Hall of Fame, things like that. And that's not really consistent with giving the fans the ability to vote whoever they want, restricting positions, and not really awarding the best players that we saw in the first half of the season.
Let me piggyback off that point here a little bit. You just talked about how much all-star bids affect legacy contracts. They're very important. So, and this is good that the NBA did this. The fan vote used to account for, I think, even more than 50%.
Yeah.
So I think it used to be 75, I want to say, because I feel like it wasn't always 50%.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a year where maybe you remember this. It was a player like Boban or someone like that.
It was Zaza Pachulia.
That's what it was. Yes. Thank you. Zaza Pachulia was almost a starter in the All-Star game, guys. He was almost a starter because of this window here I have pulled up. If you guys are watching this on video, he was like one of the top 3 in votes in the West. But just because he had so many fans, I think it was like all the fans, and I think Georgia is the country he's from.
Yeah,
everybody voted for him,
right.
So it propelled his vote total up. So he almost, I mean, it was so close. Like I was going to absolutely like throw a fit if he made the game, because as you said, like there's so many players that are deserving that already don't make it, and they almost missed out on a spot because of Zaza Pachulia. And then now you look at this list here. You can see it here on the screen that I've pulled up. Fans account for 50%. That's still a large percentage, like half of the votes here. And Wiggins is 5 in the front court in the West. He's missed like half the season. Why is he there?
Kevon Looney's number 9.
Kevon Looney is 9. He's very solid, but it's Looney. Like, what are we doing?
Reeves.
Austin Reeves is down there, guards in the Western Conference. In the East, I mean, the East front court isn't bad. Claxton, Paolo, Kuzma. I mean, they're not like egregious. You just brought up Paolo, so I mean, those are not.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with those. I think it's when you get to the guys, LaMelo. Yeah. I love seeing Derek there, Rose. But
he's gonna be until he retires. He's gonna be on this list.
Absolutely. It's a testament to how much the NBA fans love him. But
he's a fan favorite for sure.
So, but that's 298,000 votes that are now not cast for actual All-Stars. So
right. I wonder if maybe in the future the NBA restricts who you can vote for. Maybe we should start with the games play limit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have to have played at least 50% of your team's games to be eligible.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that's
or minutes per game. You have to play at least 28 minutes a game to be eligible. Something like that. Just so we can cross off guys like Derrick Rose and Austin Reeves and guys like that will miss the cut because of the minimums you place in the votes. I think that's the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think restricting the guys that they could vote for, not a bad idea.
Because you want it to be free flow. You don't want to restrict it too much. But it's almost like you have kids and you give them all this freedom and then they go and crash the car or they throw a party at the house. It's like, okay, if you're going to do this stuff when I give you all this freedom, maybe you don't deserve all this freedom, like maybe I need to kind of put some boundaries.
Right. But at the same time, give them the freedom they want, but then don't make the All-Star game and All-Star selections and All-Star bids and All-Star starters so important.
Yeah.
You can't have one and the other.
Yeah, maybe it's time to reduce the fans' share of the vote from 50 to 25 and then make the players in the media 50. So you kind of swap those a little bit so the fans don't have as much of a say in that. Like that's another way they could probably curb that a little bit. It's just certain things that, like you said, it's annoying because this means so much. And if we're going to treat it like a joke because the fans can vote in Austin Reeves, it's like, what are we doing?
I wouldn't care if it had no, effect on contracts, on accolades, on Hall of Fame eligibility, and things like that, but it does. So
it does.
right.
It does. One last point here before we wind this down, man. When it comes to All-Star Weekend itself, so all the events that we have, skills challenge, 3-point contest, dunk contest, would you like to see any kind of change on the format of All-Star Weekend itself? So keep the game. I think the 3-point contest is a hit. I think that's worth sticking around. Skills challenge is, I guess it could stick around. A lot of people have said the dunk contest should be axed in favor of something more entertaining. How do you feel about that?
No, I get it. I think we have an entertaining dunk contest every 5, 6 or so years. So it's definitely tough to sit through a dunk contest that's not up to that.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it has to be axed. I think we just have to, not give so much weight to the weekend that we had. I think it's fun for the players. I think they don't really care as how bad the dunk contest looks or whatever. It's a nice break for them, a nice time to all reconvene together, and it is what it is. But I think the biggest impact, change I wanted to see, and they did it. So I was going to bring it up, and then the NBA just did it. So that's awesome. Was that next up game? I love it. I love the idea of it. I love having the G League All-Star game. I love showing the fans that make the trip to the All-Star weekend, the kind of the next up talent that doesn't get that much recognition. Being able to see those guys that are really grinding in the G League,
they are
grinding for that, and just being able to show that and have that kind of, foundation is awesome. And that was a huge thing I wanted in the All-Star game, and I'm pretty content now that I get that. So
yeah, that's another good one for sure. G League deserves a lot of recognition just because we have some of the best players in our league come from the G League, so it deserves a lot of credit because it's been a great feeder program for a long time, even back when it was the D League, for breaking some great talents in the NBA.
Yeah.
And my idea for an additional All-Star weekend, and I've been on this side for a long time, is adding in some kind of one-on-one competition. I think that'd be
pretty cool.
Like King of the Hill type of format, something like that. Can you imagine seeing Kyrie, KD, Damian Lillard, Curry, Tatum?
If they even compete, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. But even if they don't, give me Jordan Clarkson. Guys like that. Give me when we had J.R. Smith, guys like that just they just ooze confidence and they love playing that one-on-one ball. Give me Jalen Green in the game. Players like that. Kevin Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. Even if it's not the superstars, those guys that have flashy games that just naturally bring a lot of joy to the game, it'd be really cool to see them compete. So don't know if we ever get that, but it's just, I guess it's like a dream of mine that hopefully one day before I die, I can see that.
That would be pretty cool. I agree. That would be pretty cool.
Yep. So that's my idea. I want to flow out there for you guys.
And I think I was a big fan of that when the skills challenge, kind of like those groups of, WNBA players, legends.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Shooting stars, I think it was called.
Yeah. I was a fan of that.
That was cool. Maybe it makes it come back at some point. We'll see. Yeah. It's always an experimental phase when it comes to the All-Star weekend. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But guys, this brings us to the end of our podcast for today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Aaron for coming on. It's always a great time. And let us know what you think. If you have any comments on your All-Star starters, your reserves, honorable mentions, your All-Star weekend suggestions, drop some comments. If you're on YouTube, drop us an email. We have our email available on our website. Hit us up. Whatever you guys think, we'd love to hear your opinions on it. And we'll be at this the rest of the season, guys. We're going to have some episodes like our last one that were 10-day contracts, 2-week contracts. We get into the nitty-gritty of the CBA. And then we have episodes like this where it's we talk about Christmas Day games, the All-Star game, the playoffs here, playoff previews when that's time for that. So we try to keep it balanced here, guys. We give you some casual. We give you some business topics. So a little bit of something for everybody on this podcast. That's what we pride ourselves on. But if you're looking for more content like this, definitely be sure to check out our website, notradeloss.com. Cap sheets, draft capital, all our podcasts are on our website. Articles going up weekly. There's a ton of content over there that we love for you guys to check out because we're just trying to have everybody have as much knowledge as the league as possible and have fun while doing it. So check out our website if any of that interests you, whether it's CBA or just things like this, All-Stars, whatever it is. So we'll hopefully see you guys on the next installment. That does it for episode 55 here today. But enjoy these next few weeks here leading up to the All-Star game. Submit your votes. Have fun with that. And we'll catch all you guys here on the next installment of NTC. Take care.